Michelle here. So part of my job as a communication specialist is to shoot videos that talk about what the University of Delaware is doing, what Cooperative Extension is doing, and a large part of that is advocating for agricultural businesses and encouraging people to use. So I know we're shifting to social media. It is where it's at as far as messaging is concerned. So I think all of you know why it's important that we share our stories. And if we talk to each other and only talk to each other at ag conventions or only write to ag publications and we're talking within our bubble, we need to expand beyond that and go outside and talk to people who may not understand what we're doing. And there's no better way to do that than with video. So most of you probably heard this. So the kind of content is not necessarily the hard sell about your product, but people want to hear about who you are and your stories, introduce your staff, let them see who you are. They don't always have to be perfect. My colleague, Katie Young, who's on this, we were just talking about Extension moving to Facebook, and that it can be Facebook Live, and that doesn't have to be perfect. We want to connect with each other, and video is a great way to do that. So it could be featuring your products. Hey, did you know this? Or hey, this is how this combine works, or whatever it is you want to show them. It's the little things that we take for granted that your audience is going to feel is very fascinating. So really anything goes, and we recommend that videos are about 1 to 3 minutes long. If you go really long, if you have an involved topic, you might want to do that in stages. You want to begin with a hook. So if you're talking about growing tomatoes, I'm not going to go on camera and say, hi, I'm Michelle Wofford, and I work for the University of Delaware, and I have this education, that education, and today, and it's at 30 seconds, 40 seconds before I get to my point. You want to get right to your point. You want to hold that tomato up in your hand and say, do your tomatoes look like this? Maybe it has end blossom rot or something. You want to hook them right away, because our statistics show that a lot of people will click on a video and then they drop off after 15 seconds, or they watch it for 10 seconds and they go, and they get off. So you want to begin with a hook. You want to talk about what it is that you're going to be talking about today, and how your audience might relate to it, and really get to it quickly if you can. We're going to talk some technical terms today. Lower third, you will see this I invite you to watch your local news, and you'll see everything I'm talking about today. You will see on a 30-second spot. If any of you have ever appeared or been interviewed for a television show, they will put your name across the bottom, or they will have that WBOC, for instance, or WNBC. They'll have that lower third, which is an informational bar that goes across. Usually it's branded in their colors, but it will also identify. So if I were on TV, a thing would come across the bottom saying Michelle Wofford, University of Delaware. So that's called a lower third. A bug is an icon, a logo that typically appears in the top right or bottom right. Think of the History Channel. If you're watching TV, you'll see that gold H at the bottom. That's called a bug, and all of your brands do that. So if you're going to be doing a series, say, I know Doris has a winery, she might want to have a logo that she creates as a bug, and then all the videos that she does would have that bug there. Everything else, you don't need to see the screen. So the bug is that logo. B-roll is what I'm going to talk about a lot today, because while we're home, we can be filming some of this and collecting some of this. B-roll is the technical or industry term for nothing more than background footage. And again, if you look at a recent spot on the news, you will see maybe I've interviewed Shannon Dill about working at home. And so for the first 5-10 seconds, Shannon will be on camera. But as she continues to talk about the challenges with having children at home and working and homeschooling our kids, the video might cut to her at the kitchen table with her daughters. That's B-roll. That continues in the background, and what it does is it helps to move your narrative along. So again, going back to Doris's winery, she could be talking about, well, at this point in March, we're pruning the vines on. So I might shoot some video of Doris out walking along her, her grapevines, or I might show her in the winery sorting bottles. So that's background footage. It usually is about 10 to 15 seconds tops, and it's very, very, very important. We'll show you some examples of that. And still photographs. They can also be used to help move the action or the narrative along. Landscape works best. So I'm a big proponent of shooting and filming in landscape mode, which is horizontal. Think of the shape of your computer screen. Think of the shape of YouTube. Think of the shape of the widescreen TV you have. If you're shooting vertical, which is more natural to us, it's not going to look as professional as if you turned it sideways and filmed sideways. The person who you are filming, if you're interviewing someone, they are typically called in the industry a talent or the talking head. And so just when you hear those terms, you'll know what that means. These are the platforms. You're all going to have access to these slideshows, either the live smartphone slides on Google Slides, or Shannon also has the PDF printout. So I'm not going to go over all these. Suffice to say that all of these platforms have different requirements. In case of Facebook, it's better that you upload directly to Facebook as opposed to putting a YouTube link on Facebook if you want. So sometimes it means uploading the same video twice or 3 times if it's Twitter, if it's under a certain time amount, because they will give more traction. If we were to post this video on YouTube through Facebook, Facebook would not feed it to as many people as if you uploaded it directly on Facebook. Hopefully that makes a little sense to you. 2 conditions that make your smartphone videos look unprofessional. And one is human handling. If you're holding it like this, you're going to wiggle when you breathe. So you need to have some type of support, and there are gimbals that you can hold, and I'll talk about those. Or also I have right here, this is a monopod, which is an expandable, or a tripod would work, and you can get cell phone grips. They're about $5. There's different ones, but you can see here it springs up and down to hold the camera like that. And just putting it on a grip on either a tripod, a selfie stick would work, or a tripod, a monopod. That is going to reduce a lot of your shaking and the instability. So these are very inexpensive. I do have a material list to show you of recommended ones that you can buy, the price to get going. And really for about $150, you can have everything you need to do everything professional. It's quite amazing. The other thing that will ruin is sound. The microphones are excellent if you're inside a room, with fabric or pillows or upholstery. But when you go outside and film a farmer on a phone like this, you're going to get that, I know it's not a really great imitation, but that wind shear noise. It's a multi-directional microphone, so it's going to also record the fire engine going down the street. It's going to pick up wind incredibly. So with a small investment, you can buy a microphone that will make your audio sound terrific. So really, as far as video is concerned, these cameras are incredible. Mine shoots 4K. High definition is 720 or 1080p. Most phones will shoot 1080p unless you've got and I even think iPhone 5s shot 1080p, but they're shooting 4K. So they shoot as well as, I have a $3,000 video camera. And I don't use it that much anymore. I use this. It shoots the quality is just as well. There are some features like zooming that might not be as good as a high-end camcorder. So, but the sound is what we're going to also talk about today. So B-roll is the secret sauce to success. And what I'm asking you today, for all of you who are listening and you're home and you don't know what to do, this is the time when we have this downtime to start accumulating a stock library, a 10 to 15 second film clips. Think of them as film clips if that's easier for you than B-roll. If you've got animals approaching you and smelling the camera, they'll come, they're curious. Cows are curious. They'll come up to you. Long shots, wide shots, where you're seeing the cows at pasture. Any kind of scene, any kind of activity that's going on in your business, in your world, you can take close-ups of it. You can take wide shots of it. Your tractors going down the farm. Maybe a close-up of something running off of your tractor. Especially the fall combines are fascinating. Wide and close-up shots. Your husband or yourself is up on a tractor and you're running it. It could be you climbing into the tractor. Take 15 seconds of that, because you don't know when you're going to need these film clips. And the more you have, the more choices you will to create a finished video, and they will be amazing the more video you have. Our bosses tell us, more B-roll, more B-roll, more B-roll. So get out there and pretty much film everything for 10, 15 seconds. If your children are doing chores, have them walking off, heading to the poultry house or heading to the barn. If you don't want them on face-wise, have them going off, carrying their tools or doing a chore, because you might use that to tell your family farm story. I hope that makes sense to you. Crops blowing in the wind. It could be yourself, your husband, a family member walking through a wheat field, walking through a cornfield. It could be irrigation spinning and letting out water. All of these, I can't stress it enough, are going to be extremely valuable to you when you're creating your finished video. So now I want to show you a little bit about, I'm not going to play this for time, but I'm going to recommend to you that all of you download, it's maybe $14.99, it's called Filmic Pro. Filmic Pro is an app that will work on iOS and also on Android. It is going to give you superior video control other than what's on your default iOS or your default Android. So what I'm going to suggest to you do is not use your default video camera that comes on your phone. You want to use Filmic Pro. For iPhone, there's also Movie Pro, which is $5.99. I'm not sure if that works on Android. It might, but when I downloaded it, it was only on iOS. But both of those are going to give you the capability of doing some more advanced videography, and we're going to see some examples of that. When you do go on to Filmic Pro and you hit the toolbar, so let me just show you this. I'm going to minimize this for a minute. This is my phone, took it this morning, opening up Filmic Pro, and I just wanted to show you. So this is a screenshot recording this morning, and I'm recording that. And there's my live feed. The first thing you want to do before recording is turn your Do Not Disturb button on. But I'm engaging Filmic Pro right now. And Filmic Pro, oh, it turned sideways. It gives you a volume. See it down at the bottom here? Sorry that it's sideways, but it's showing you a volume control. And look here, you can see when I plug in a headset or a microphone, it will tell me that I've got a headset microphone on. And what that is, I'm going to bring this back up. This is on the supply list. The other thing it will do is you can change the resolution. So normal filming, just like the PowerPoint size that you're seeing today, is 16.9. That is your default widescreen resolution. But if you want to film something specifically to market on Facebook, you might want to use the 1:1 resolution. So you can change the resolution or the orientation very easily using Filmic Pro. And you can see me toggling back and forth there with that. It will also do some other, it will have over, let's see what I'm showing you here. Over here on the top left is a temperature bar. So what that will tell you, what that is doing is if you're filming indoors, and let's say you have incandescent lights on, so you get that tawny yellow look, and you don't want that, you can correct that right in the app. If you are in an office setting and you have fluorescent lights above your head, that's like a very unflattering green. So having being able to correct that. You're not going to have an issue if you film outside, but if you're filming inside, this is very, very handy to have. This is the most important thing. What I clicked over here was this round circle with the 3 circular parts around it. That is your focusing, and we're going to see why this is important. But in Filmic Pro, you can bring your person that you're filming in focus. The background can be out of focus. Or you can pull the background in focus and have the person in front out of focus. And this is used for emphasis. Again, this is not something you can do with your default video. This is a technique, and we're going to see that in a minute on the slideshow, but I wanted to show you, and I'm sorry that it's sideways, but that's just the way things are rolling today, that you can toggle back and forth and bring things in and out of focus very, very easily using Filmic Pro. So for $15 investment, this is just a fabulous program.
Michelle, there's a question about microphones that can connect via Bluetooth. Not all phones have a phone jack. Have you had any?
Correct. And for instance, my iPhone doesn't have a phone jack. I have to use an adapter. I have used Bluetooth. The one I started out with was called Amperage Mighty Mic W. It's about $60. It's about a little bit larger than a man's tie clip. They tend to be very bulky, and I loved Amperage Pro. I used it for about 1.5 years. They changed the model. They added an on and off button, which was fabulous. But the second incarnation of that sounded very tinny to me. And I can possibly go on, if we have time, and show you some of the YouTube channels. We have a series called Master Gardener Minute. And some of those are recorded with a good mic. Some are recorded with the Bluetooth. Some are recorded with the newer Bluetooth. And some are recorded just with the default sound. And you can clearly hear the difference. My problem with it is the second incarnation, the second generation of the Amperage Mighty Mic sounded very, very tinny to me, and I did not like it. There are other Bluetooth microphones on the market. They tend to be chunky. That's okay if you don't mind that. I like a more professional hidden look, so I prefer using the Rhodes, the easiest and cheapest way. Now, it is wired. So what you have to do, and I got the extension cord, so I have a 25-foot extension. So I can be quite far away from my subject, and I do ask the subject to work it up through their shirt. You don't want to be doing that. You're far enough away that then, for instance, I'm wearing a scarf. I could hide this lavalier onto my microphone. The video quality of this Rode Mighty Mic, the Rode Smart Lav, is unparalleled. You're talking with this, and although it's wired, it is as good as anything that WBOC or NBC or ABC would use. It is incredible, but it is wired. Can hide that. And so you would have to buy the Mighty Mic, and I have a material list showing you all of the prices, and you can get them on Amazon, and the extension cord. But this has been my go-to because of I also used a Bluetooth mic one time, did a very important interview. I got back, edited it, and I heard this, wah, wah, wah. I don't know whether there was a microwave tower going off. It picked that up. I've gotten a little bit uncomfortable using them because you're going to have to stop what you're doing, and after your interview is done, you want to play it back right away to make sure it sounded okay. You're going to have to turn your Bluetooth back off in order to play it back. Play it back and make sure it sounds okay, because you don't want that person you've interviewed to have left the building. And that's happened to me. So I'm going to tell you from my experiences, I'm a little shaky on the Bluetooth microphone. But certainly research them for your phones. They're probably coming out with better ones. I think Saramonic makes one, but you're into the $250 range for some of these. The other thing you can do is get a condenser mic. A condenser mic is going to plug into your phone. And again, if you stick with Rode, if you stick with Shure, the Shure MV88 is a condenser mic. So that's actually going to plug into your lightning port, and it has a directional. And you can change the angle of them from wide to narrow. And that is better than nothing. It's better. It's not quite as good as the lavalier, but it's much better than your built-in mic. Rode also makes one that plugs into your phone. So there's condenser mics which again is going to plug into whatever kind of port you have and point outwards toward the person you're talking about. A lot of times they come with a windscreen built in that's going to cut down on the wind. And in my situation, because I'm out filming extension professionals out and they're in the middle of a lima bean field, you're getting that wind, and it absolutely destroys the interview. It destroys the sound. If you want to make sure there's no wind sound, you got to go with a lavalier. It is the best. Next step would be to use a condenser mic. Again, you could get into a film crew with camcorders and have boom microphones and all that. We're talking about really what can you do practically with your smartphone. And I'll show that material list. Maybe I should show that now. What do you think, Shannon? Let's see. So this is an example. I just pointed this in my living room. This is Filmic Pro, just showing you this is where you control your temperature. This is where you control your focus. You have your tools here so that you can actually set your frame rates, whether it's shooting in 4K or 1080. You can do all of that. It is a first class. You could film a Hollywood movie with this app. Seriously, it's that good. So it's a very small investment of $15 to do.
Michelle, there's a question about the Filmic app, if it can be used during like live streaming or any of that, or do you have to use the default video on your phone?
That I don't know. I don't know. That would be something I'd have to check on. That I don't know. You should be able to, but I don't know. That's a great question. I will find out the answer to that question for you. So I wanted to play this video. Now you're going to see an example of how powerful B-roll will be. So I'm going to click on that. So they've purchased some music. You cannot download something on iTunes and use it. You need to use public domain music. Royalty-free music means you don't have to pay anybody, but you do have to give them credit. So somewhere at the bottom of the end of the video, you need to say music by such and such. If you've recorded it yourself or you have a relative who can play a little guitar, that's not necessary. But you cannot, under any circumstances, use copyrighted music on your video. So you can go onto creativecommons.org and click for public domain music, and you might be able to find something like on SoundCloud. They will give you a list, and you can source for that. The University of Delaware has a license for this, but you need to make sure you are not using, Facebook, for instance, will block you completely if you're using copyrighted music. So there are sources for royalty-free and public domain. Public domain music means you don't have to give anybody credit. Royalty-free means you can use it, you don't have to pay. You can buy royalty-free music on iTunes for typically 99 cents, so you do buy it once. You can use it over and over again. You just need to put a little blip up in your video crediting the artist at some point, be at the end or wherever. But here you're hearing music,
and I farmed your Gilmore,
and
with my family.
I want you to pay attention to the B-roll. It just cut to him. There was a close-up of him driving. Now there's a close-up of the windshield. So just look at this and look at the way the film clips are changing. His narrative is over top of it. So he's narrating. You may see him on camera once in a while, but mostly they've recorded his audio and then they're dropping in these film clips, this B-roll, in behind the narrative.
We farm about 12,000 acres, and we've been here since the 1950s.
There's the lower third.
Involved in the community as much as possible. I do work volunteer ambulance, and I also work in the volunteer fire department. There's my wife and I, there's my older sister Sarah, and mom and dad. I started farming in 2006. I was still in high school then. My first field was actually that one just right over there.
I want you to note here, look at him. He's in focus. Look at the background. Look at his crops, probably canola. Look at the barn structures in the background. They're all blurry. This is high-end videography here. And you can do this with you cannot do this with your default. So this is some of the things that you can do. And notice it was things of him like getting out of his truck pulling up. It wasn't the full truck, it was just a close-up. Anything goes here. You could just go crazy filming 10 seconds of this, that, and the other. There's going to be a place for you to use that video. We'll continue on.
Been farming a little more every year, I guess, since then. A lot of the reason
now there he's all in focus.
Where the sun comes from today is parents want to know that they're feeding their children food that is healthy and nutritious and safe. And I think we need to get past the stigma of GMOs being something different, because all of our crops have been modified in certain ways.
Now in this case, it's just him kind of doing what he does on a typical day, inspecting his crops. Notice here the farm buildings, the silos, the grain bins are more in focus. So this is what I'm going to encourage you to do, just experiment a little bit. I'm going to get out of this because we've got a lot to cover, but that's one example. I'm going to show you one more. Okay, so this is another person. The background is softly focused. She is growing organic foods on her farm, so let's just take a look at that. She's also in a little bit of a shadow. So you can have someone off screen with a white, you can go pick up a white poster board at the type your children use for a science display. That's a reflective surface, and someone could be just off camera holding that to her. That would help bounce back a little bit of the sunlight on her face. But let's just take a look at this one.
So
all right, we have an ad, sorry.
It is time to take my vitamins. So again, this is the Persona Nutrition.
And I just want to say you can learn a lot by what others do. In this case, see her opening. She's doing her. This could be your business. You could design this in PowerPoint or on Canva. It's a 16:9 ratio, which is the widescreen ratio. So a widescreen PowerPoint slide would work great. She's put this in, she's put some pictures, and she drops that in as a beginning photograph. It's a still photograph, but that's her brand, that's her opening. So she's branding each of her videos in this way. So it's a very easy thing to do, and again, it's something I would suggest that you might look into doing. So let's play a little bit of this. Look at the quick changes in the B-roll.
Hey guys, really excited to share a piece of my life.
She's using still photographs.
Taking you around the farm today, a day in the farm life of Rock Christina. And many people are always asking me to do a day in the life video. But for those of you who know me know that I have to wear many different hats sometimes. I run the largest nonprofit food cooperative in Texas called Rockily Organic, and not only do I spend a lot of my time.
And again, just paying attention to, she's a little dark. I would have put a reflector on her. She's not mic'd. This is probably professionally done. If I were going to put a lavalier on her, I would ask her to run it up, and I would probably put it about here. You don't want to have it up high. If people are wearing collared shirts, it's better than a t-shirt because a t-shirt is harder to hide. It could be hidden right here, be tucked right under her sleeve. But the ideal placement for a microphone is about here if you're using a lavalier, right about where the collarbone is.
I'm at co-op, but I spend a lot of my time at farms. Sometimes I make YouTube videos, sometimes I'm with my family, and so every day for me is different. So I thought a cool idea would be for me to make a series of a day in the life videos, little bits and pieces of my life here and there. I'm going to make more day in the life videos for you in the future. And
the other thing I want to show you is look down here at the bottom. There is her bug, which is really tiny, but it's that little orange box that's branding her videos. Oops. Okay. Let me see if I can move forward a little bit. In this case, she's mostly on camera the whole time.
Are you ready to make a salad? I am in the middle of a lettuce field, and I'm excited to show you a few different varieties of greens. So, for instance, this one right here, And this is romaine. Many of you guys may know that. It's very...
The other thing I want to point out to you is composition. She's not dead center, and most professional films that feature a human being talking, a talent, is going to be using the rule of thirds. So you don't have to do it, but being dead center is typically not advised. A little off to the left, a little off to the right. And you'll notice that they changed. They had her straight away, then they had her sitting down and kneeling down into the crop. So don't be afraid to try different positions and different venues for your videoing. And one other I wanted to show you, actually there's a couple more. Now, here's a guy who is doing this style. So this is not fancy by any stretch of the imagination. He's holding it himself. If you're going to do that, that can be your look. It can be informal, but just do it right. Make sure you're dressed well. Be entertaining. You have to be comfortable with looking at yourself on camera and doing it this way. But it could be your look. Everything doesn't have to be completely polished. So let's just take a look at him a second. Well, another commercial.
Well, what's up, guys? This is Daniel from the Orange Family Homestead. Hey, in today's video, I'm going to share a few tips on some of you aspiring goat owners, because there's so many people out there that are considering getting into this world of raising goats, and I've learned a few tips along the way, and I want to share that with you today.
So he's using B-roll, he's branding, he's using a drone video, which is really nice.
So as you guys know, from several of my past videos, I raise meat goats. I'm not in it for milk and cheese and all that. These are just meat goats that I use on my farm. So I get comments all the time from people on YouTube that are aspiring to live this lifestyle, a homestead lifestyle, small farm, hobby farm, things like that. And they like the idea of having goats because they're kind of like what I would consider a gateway animal. They're a lot easier to care for. Springtime, fall, whenever. It doesn't matter on the temperature necessarily. Goats don't like to be wet. So as long as you've got a place for your goats to stay dry and kind of out of the wind, they will do awesome. You'll be amazed at where's he going?
That's what I wanted to show you. It's okay. I mean, again, they don't have to be polished. He has a whole series of these, and he's the star, and he's reacting to spontaneous dog barking or whatever's going on. And this can be very, very effective. So I wanted to tell you that you can be relaxed, be consistent. If you're going to go with the informal route, by all means, do that, but then kind of stick with that look. It does work. And in his case, he's informative. He switches things around a little bit. He is editing this. You can see where he's made edits. And we can talk about editing later. And then here's this last one. I just wanted to show you, this is an ideal composition. She's definitely rule of thirds. She's off to the right here. And let's play this one because she does some things here that are very, very well done. First of all, B-roll of the family on the farm.
We started Full Circle actually kind of by accident several years ago, and because of our son, Reese. He was diagnosed with autism when he was 4, and long story short, the whole family
B-roll.
went on a special diet, and we really started paying attention to what we eat, and discovered we could not find the grass-fed meat that we needed around here. There just wasn't anybody that grew them, so we started growing them ourselves.
Close up of pigs.
And friends want to buy it from us, and it's kind of expanded from there, and we love what we do. It's different from the other farming that we grew up with, but that's why we become Full Circle, and we call it our Full Circle Family Farm.
B-roll. Just well done. children doing chores. So you can see there, that's the importance of B-roll. None of it was necessarily, especially the ones of the children putting the feed in the trough. That wasn't perfect. The children were blurry, but it showed their little hands in the scene. It helps move that narrative along. She's used banjo music, so that's the main thing. You don't have to have music, but that does help that along quite a lot. Any questions so far of what B-roll is? I'm not going to show you this in the interest of time. This was a cute video, but it was done in a creamery where there's no carpeting, no pillows, no sofas, and the audio was very, very tinny. I think they just took their camera and filmed it straight from their smartphone, and you can tell it's very echoey. So that's an example of where a condenser mic might have been better to have had on the phone. These are what lower thirds are. This is a lower third that the University of Delaware uses. This is our bug up at the top, and it's just a logo that you stretch across an iMovie. This is the old one. This comes with iMovie free. There's about, I don't know, a dozen of them that you can pick from. But if you want a more customized look, that you can add that in. I'll let you look at this online. You're going to have access to this. But this was my intern showing you how to create videos and explaining some of the things. You definitely want to record in at least 1080 HD. Don't zoom. Don't take your fingers and zoom. There is a difference between digital and optical zooming. Your cameras, my camera now has 3 cameras, has 3 lenses on it. So I can go 1 time and I can go 2 times. But I see people doing this even with their cameras. If you're going to a recital and your child is on stage and you're 20 rows back, I see a lot of parents, stretching out there to zoom in. The worst thing you can do. You want to, because when you do a digital zoom like that, you're reducing the quality of your video. You want to use optical zoom, so you want to stick within the parameters of your phone. Mine has widescreen at 0.5. It has 1, which is the normal, and then it has 2. But if I want to get in close, I'm going to do that on the post end. When I'm editing this film in iMovie or Final Cut Pro, I can crop it and keep the integrity of that high definition, where if I were to just gone and expanded it, I would have ruined that quality. So you're better to film far away in high quality and crop to what you want to zoom to rather than expanding out and zooming. Hopefully that makes sense. You want to record in landscape mode in all cases if you can. So please, please, please hold your phone this way. What orientation that you'll use will depend on where you're going to be publishing. If you're publishing entirely on Facebook and only on Facebook, you might want to consider doing just a square resolution, which you can change. And so this is what a landscape is going to look like on Facebook, and this is what a square is going to look like on Facebook. So it's going to give you more screen real estate. So it's important to know what platform you're going to be on. If you're going to be on, I want to be on all of them, then I would stick with landscape. You can also copy the video and then crop it to square for, but the thing is about cropping is if you're filming in a square format, the person who's doing the actual filming is going to know what they want to include in the scene. It's going to be right there. The danger in cropping something that's been filmed in landscape is you're going to be cutting out something that might be very, very important. So if you know you're going to be doing square, you don't want to be filming in landscape and then crop it. You want to film it square to begin with. Again, this is just an example of customizing. I took the University of Delaware lower third and I changed the colors for this STEM Girls event. And again, it is done and it's filmed so that it fits these screens, because this is what most people are looking at. Yes, some people are looking at the nice thing about horizontal, except for Facebook, well, even in Facebook, is if you turn your phone, the video comes full screen. So it's why I personally recommend that everything be done in the 16:9 widescreen resolution for your filming. And if you're filming it in vertical, this is what it looks like. It looks terrible. They have to ghost. They either have to have black in the background, which is called that black box, and they're showing the original video here in portrait mode, and they have to ghost it or enlarge it and stretch it out just to fill that space. So this is what you see when people film something on the street and send it into CNN. This is what this is all they have. So this is what they have to do. But really, filming it in horizontal is your best bet. Types of microphones. The corded lavalier, and again, this is the Rode lavalier. This is the best, in my opinion, the Smart Lav Plus. You can also use a wireless lavalier, but that really doesn't work with a smartphone. I use that on my camcorder because I have a hot shoe and I have a transmitter and I can mic it that way. Or you can plug in a condenser microphone, and we'll look at the handout for that. If you have a plug-in microphone, Android, God bless them, they kept their headphone jack. Those of us on Apple have to use an adapter. And make sure you get the Apple brand. Don't go cheap. You'll be sorry. I've gone cheap, and it did not recognize the microphone that I plugged into it on this end. So you're going to spend about $9. If you're spending $2, you're not going to get the results that you want. And the material list that I'm providing, all of that is listed. This is the microphone I recommend as a solid microphone. It is corded, but you can hide that. Get the extension cord. They only give you 6 feet, which is ridiculous. So you need to get that extra 20 foot so that you can have that wire out of the seam. So this is an excellent microphone. This just talks about where to place the microphone. Then I have some other things in here. If you're doing the videography, you are going to have people who are going to be nervous. So you have to pay attention. If you're the videographer, you're also the director. So if they say something like, today we're going to talk about how to propagate hydrangeas. They're my favorite plant, and hydrangeas, I think, are the jewel of June. So, okay, that's what my talent just said. So I'm thinking to myself, I need to go take some B-roll of some hydrangeas. So I might shoot 10 to 15 seconds of different kinds, different colors. I might show her a pruning one. I might show her mulching one. But I'm going to pay attention to the clues that the person is saying to you in the interview. And that's going to give you clues to, okay, she just mentioned lettuce. I need to go bend down and shoot some lettuce. You don't want to be moving the camera back and forth as your subject goes. Keep your subject there talking to you about lettuce and harvesting it or harvesting grapes. You don't want to be moving your camera all around as they're doing those things. Let that person just say their narrative straight on, and then pay attention to what they're saying, and then separately film those B-roll shots of them bending down, pruning, picking, harvesting, whatever, and they can be dropped in. Directing, so these are just some tips to direct the subject. The videographer is typically the director. The other thing is if you ask them a question, so I might say to Shannon, what are you doing during this shutdown? And then I'm going to tell her, Shannon, before you answer me, pause, because I'm going to cut myself out of that. You're not going to hear me asking you that. And if you could, Shannon, could you work that back into your answer? So then Shannon would go, I've given her that cue. So then Shannon will say, during the shutdown, it's been very challenging, but I've been amazed by how technology has really helped me. So by doing that, I'm able to cut my question out. This would be done post-editing. But then what she is answering to me makes sense. If I were to say, Shannon, do you like tomatoes? And she were to answer, yes, I love tomatoes. that really doesn't make sense unless she frames it to what the purpose of it. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you, but you've got to coach the person you're filming so that when you cut your question out, it makes sense. And you want to tell them to relax between sentences. I know I am not very poised in front of a camera, quite honestly, but I know people who are. And the minute you put a camera in front of them, they start going, okay. And they roll their eyes and they go, can we do that again? So as the videographer, you need to keep them relaxed and say, that was great. That first part, okay, you messed up the second part. Let's just pick it up where you say, we harvest around June or we harvest around August. And then you make the person relaxed and then you go ahead and they start that, because you can cut out all those mistakes. But if you keep making them go to the very beginning where maybe they got 2/3 of it right before they messed up, that's going to even make them more nervous, because it's better off to just turn it off and start a new segment with a second question, because it can be pieced together in a seamless way. And B-roll is a great way to put that up top and match that in so that it rolls over very, very seamlessly. And the other thing you want to do is, how do you film a person? This here is 60 minutes, kind of confessional. You don't want to film somebody like that, I don't think. I personally use these two up at the top, the head and shoulder shot or the head and shoulder to elbow shot. We're not trying to make anybody look uncomfortable. If you avoid bellies and tummies and zippers and belts and zippers that might be down or stains on pants, these two positions or focusing, blocking are ideal. You may have some like far away shots when they're out in the field or something like that, like you saw the family. That was a full shot of them walking on their farm. But for the most part, when you're doing an interview, these two here are the very best to use. Again, there's exceptions to the rule, but the idea is you don't want somebody, I know I wouldn't want somebody filming, filling my stomach. I would much prefer, and then again, I don't want them too close either. So this other thing too is when you're filming, using the rule of thirds is excellent to do. And for the subject host, I'm going to let you read these on your own. I kind of want to also I want to let you ask some questions of me, and you can read these later at your leisure. Again, pay attention to the background. And if you're filming people in their home, if you're filming your spouse or your significant other or your family member and say they're in the office, you want to make sure your background is free of personal information, because there will be kooks out there that will read the phone number that's pinned to your bulletin board. You want to have a neutral background. Pay attention to how you're staging your scene. So he had, a messy room. Later on, his kids came in. It was a real nightmare. But when you're doing something that you're going to be promoting your business on, think about the background. Is your fence painted? Is there rusty equipment in the background? You need to shift your position so that those things don't show up. Branding, again, the University of Delaware does that. This is a gimbal, so you may want to think about having a lower third, having your own opening. In fact, this is an old branding. We don't even use this one anymore. But having that branding to introduce your video, at least at the very beginning and possibly at the end, you could have a slide that says, for more information, visit our website, and have that on there in the video. This is a gimbal, and there's a video here. And again, you have the link to this PowerPoint, so you can actually go on and play this for interest of time, because we're already over due to the, how do I create lower third? They're built in for free in iMovie, but if you need a customized one, you have to do that in either like Canva, or in Photoshop. They're not hard to do, but what you need to have is that background needs to be transparent. And I've talked with Shannon. We didn't have this scheduled anytime soon, but I'm going to record a okay, you've got the filming done, now what? How do you put the B-roll and the footage together? How do you put a lower third in? How do you create a lower third? I was thinking about pre-recording that and including it in as a link to this with this workshop, or maybe we could do a separate one that's not on the Wednesday webinar schedule, one that since we're all sitting around home, maybe we can just do that, and I can walk you through that process. So there are some that are built in. You can also buy them. Pixel Studios is online. They sell like kits, like you can buy 3 or 4 and you can change the colors of them. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can do that. And I can show you, these are gimbals. If you do buy a gimbal, so this is going to allow you to hold your phone in your hand and move up and down and go left and right. And it balances your camera so that it's not herky-jerky. If you buy one, this is what they run, at around $100 now. They've really come down. Make sure you get a 3-axis gimbal, not a 2-axis, a 3-axis. That allows the phones to go up and down this way, up and down this way, and then also that way, left, horizontal and vertical. So you do want to see a 3-axis gimbal is best. They're about $100, $130 as you can see here from Amazon. So we can do, are there any questions? And I could show you some examples of bad sound if you really want to see it. I can put some on here for you. I'm going to unshare my screen and just see if there's any questions.
We have a number of questions.
Okay.
Just to kind of sort through them. So we had the question about the Filmic app, whether it was live streaming.
Right.
There's a question about recording outdoors without picking up wind noise.
Yeah.
And how to make a bug.
Okay. A bug is very simply a logo. If you have access, and here's the one rub. I have both a PC at work at home, and I have a Mac at work at home. And PCs, Windows, does not have, in my opinion, a very good film editing software. It stinks. If you're serious about this, look into getting maybe a refurbished like an iPad. Not an iPad. You can do it on an iPad. I'm talking about an iMac, like a refurbished laptop, a Mac laptop. It comes with iMovie. Your iPhone and iPads come with iMovie. They are not the same thing as the desktop version. The desktop version will give you pretty much high-end features. And I can share my screen again and show you what that is. But if you're serious about creating videos for your business, you need to make an investment in a Mac. That's my personal opinion. Some people might disagree. The other thing you can get is, and let me just share my screen again. Adobe makes a product called Premiere Pro. It's a high-end film editor. So share my screen. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Let me minimize this. So I have iMovie right here. Then I have Final Cut Pro, which is iMovie on steroids. So Final Cut Pro is giving you more professional features. It's about a $300 program. iMovie comes free. I'll bring up iMovie. It takes a while to boot up. The other program I have is Adobe. All right, so here we go. So this is iMovie, and so what's that? Can you see that?
Yes, I can see it. I think it was the audio in your iMovie.
Okay. Okay, so here you would have in iMovie, this comes free. Now these lower thirds are not available in the iMovie app that you get on your smartphone. So your iMovie app on your phone and on your iPad will allow you to do some editing and some basic things that's not going to give you, say, a lower third, so such as this. So I would just drag that over if there was a person talking, and then I would have that person's name, I would be able to put that in. I can't really do too much else with it. I can change the color of the font, but that's about it. I would have to go into Final Cut Pro to do more advanced, customized lower thirds. And you could get somebody, if I had time, I could create a lower third for somebody on Photoshop. It would take maybe a half hour of my time. The other thing, so if you know somebody who's good at Photoshop, they can create a lower third for you. Final Cut Pro, actually, the Final Cut Pro is complicated, so I don't recommend using that for somebody who's brand new. The ones that are in iMovie are pretty good. Someone asked about a bug. So what you would need to do in the case of a bug is you would download your logo. So if I go here into my media, and I'm going to come into my desktop, I'm going to look for a logo. And let's just say here I've got here's the MasterCard logo. So I'm gonna bring that into my iMovie, and I'm going to drag it down. So there it is, and it's way too big. So what I would do is I would click on this, and I would make that go from a cutaway to a picture-in-picture. So now there it is. I can change the cropping, crop to fill. So I get the whole thing in there. And then, so here it is. Let me see here, I'm having a hard time. So there it is here. It's too big. So I'm just going to click on that. Oops. I'm going to click on this and crop it. I'm going to resize it. See here, fit. Maybe good fit.
And you're in the Adobe program, is that correct, Michelle?
No, I'm in iMovie, and the problem is I have some screen. Oh, there we go. What you do is you click on this, you stretch it out across the whole thing. So now I've got that thing here, and I click on this, and I can move it and resize it. I'm trying to remember how I do that now. It's been a while, but you can take this and move it. I need to go back to picture-in-picture. All right, so now it's in picture-in-picture, and you can see it has handles here. So I just shrink it and put it at the bottom. And now as my video plays all the way through, watch, it'll pop up.
Something that we talked about in class 3.
Okay, so this whole person's talking the whole time now. That Master Gardener logo will stay there at the bottom.
Tomatoes.
Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? So you need a logo with a transparent background. The same works true of a lower third. You would just place it and drop it in place. But iMovie has those. So again, this is free with a Mac, and Macs aren't cheap. I'm not suggesting that you go out and spend $2,000 on a laptop, but you might be able to get one that's an older model that's refurbished, as long as it's running iMovie, and just use it just for film editing. That might be the best way to do it. Or you're going to have to find someone who would be able to take your B-rolls and put them in place. And what you do with your B-roll information, you would just come into your video and load your B-roll up. So you would have your narrative here. And what I'm talking about, let me just see here, desktop. I didn't plan for this to show you this today, but I will go on. So here's some lima beans footage. Okay, so that's horizontal. That's not good. So there's a JPEG. So I want that. I'm going to import that in. Now, if I want to cut away, so my person, you just have to a little bit of let's see here. You just pull your pictures in, and what happens is as you're playing your video, and just creative thinking here, everybody. Let's just pretend someone's talking, and you're seeing their face, and then boom, the footage comes across, and that could be a piece of 10-second film that you've done, or it can be a still photograph. But then you can string these all along, so you can add more. You can add more footage. So if I were talking about lima beans, so here's another footage of somebody. So these are still photographs, but you just bring them in and lay them together, and they just continue to play. It's not erasing the person who you've interviewed with.
Some things that we talked about in
that narrative keeps going.
The processing of.
But you can be, so you add in, whether they're a still photograph, a JPEG, or you're adding in a movie or an MP4 or a 10-second video clip. That's how you build your narrative. So this could be you and your husband talking about the family farm straight all the way through, boring, right? You're just this one scene. Then you drop in the B-roll that I told you that you should be taking now, the cute cows, the little pigs, the children running errands. And as your husband or your wife or your significant other says something to the effect of, yeah, our family farm, it's been in our generation we've had 4 generations. My grandfather built that barn in 1875. That's when you want a shot of the barn. Then there's a shot of you and your grandfather and your son showing the 3 or 4 generations walking in the field. 10 seconds of that. That's where you would drop that in. You've got to listen to what the interview was and find the appropriate footage to put in place of that, because you don't want, and then every minute or so, just like you saw with that one farmer in Canada, they go back to him on camera talking. So, but you don't switch it around too much. But the idea is to introduce them maybe every minute, bring him back on for 15 seconds, and then when he talks about, how his wife helps him or how his children help him, you might cut away to a video of that. We could do a whole session on this, and I'll have materials prepared for it, because obviously this doesn't really make sense. But I hope if that makes sense to you. I don't know if it does or not. Are there any other questions? Oh, the other thing I wanted to show you was, so let me go back. In the handouts.
That's great, Michelle. We have a couple questions too as you're pulling that up.
Okay.
Just a public service announcement. Make sure your animals look clean before filming, especially for people. And so that is definitely a good bit of advice. If the horses or animals are in mud or muck or look any bit neglected, there could definitely be some negative comments. There's another question too about what format does Filmic Pro capture in? So is that an MP4?
You can set that. I've set mine to MP4, and it goes right to my camera roll. It goes right to your, you can tell it where the finished product will go. It can go right to the interview. Right to the gallery, or you can store it within Filmic Pro. I like it to go right to my gallery because I want to stop what I'm doing and play it back and make sure it works. In the handouts, you will, let me open this up. So I do have a material list for you. And this is what I use. I have a Manfrotto Smart clamp. That's for this clamp for, you can get them for $5. I bought myself a really good monopod. So it's kind of like a selfie stick, but then some. You can actually use it for a regular camera too. So it's $25 for this. You can get them for $19. I just went with the Manfrotto, which is a nice, this is very lightweight. It's about 18 inches long when it's collapsed. So it's packable, which is why I liked it. And the clamp, which is $19. So that's what I walk around with. The microphone Smart Lav is $70. It gives you 6 feet, and extension cord is $70. It's $55 by itself. This works Android and iPhone. iPhone, you have to use the adapter and get one of those. You do need the extension cord, and I swear by this. This has never failed me. And the sound is absolutely stunning from it. The Filmic Pro app is $14.99, and it's available on Android and iMovie. And so getting all of this, you are spending about, for Android users, $130, and for iPhone, $145. So with just those things, you can, you're good to go. You can really produce amazing sounding quality. Now, the other microphones that, one other thing I wanted to show you was, I also have this interviewing. So this is what you do if you're behind the camera and you're doing the filming. Now, I created this for 4-Hers to use. So you'll see references to 4-H. So just substitute what you're doing on here. But it will tell you your basic instructions about turning your phone, your do not disturb on, how to place the microphone. This is the most ideal place. How to work with the person that you're talking to, and what to be paying attention for when you are interviewing someone. You don't want to be reading. I know some people will put, if you have a helper, have cue cards so the person can remember, like, oh, I forgot to mention that we are growing organic, or I forgot to mention our commitment to animal safety and welfare. So you could have like a bulletin board or something on an easel in the background with bullets, just to trigger the person to make sure they say all the things that they want to say. There are some great links on here too about how to create B-roll and B-roll mistakes, and I would recommend that you watch these, because it's really going to, if you understand B-roll, you've got it made. You're 90% of the way there. What some of these videos sound like. And I'm going to go to our playlist, and we have the Master Gardener Minutes, and here they are. So we have several of these that we've filmed, and this person here, I don't know if you can hear the sound really good coming through here, but this is one where she's using the Rode lavalier microphone. So I'm just going to advance it.
We're in front of your tomato plants. It's the end of the season, and you want to lift them all out and dispose of them. Do not put them in the compost. Tomato plants and most other
B-roll
vegetables are a vector for diseases. So if you put them into the compost heap or you save them, you're overwintering your diseases.
So that's pretty good sound in my opinion. Then you might have one, this was done without any microphone at all. This is straight out of the camera. So listen to the difference.
About goldenrod, there's a common misconception that this is what causes fall allergy. The real culprit is ragweed.
So I didn't know I was filming that. This was one of the earliest ones. She wanted to do one, so she dragged me out of the office and I filmed her. You can hear the heating system, the HVAC system for Carvel in the background humming. You can hear all the people in here talking. So you can hear Sandy, but she's not coming through really clear because I'm just using my built-in microphone. It's not a windy day.
Goldenrod a very important plant for the pollinators, particularly moths as they are
But
coming back.
that is B-roll being used, or rather still photographs being used, but not very, very good sound. Here is another one. This was done with the Bluetooth microphone. So I just want you to listen to the sound here. So you can see, there's the Bluetooth microphone. That's the slim version. Most of them online are even bigger than that. But just listen to the quality. To me, it's a little tinny.
Sweet potatoes from a little sweet potato like this. Just follow these steps. First, cut the sweet potato in
That's
half.
B-roll footage.
Then, take 3 toothpicks and insert them about halfway down, evenly spaced, into the sides of the sweet potato. Next, suspend the piece of sweet potato in a glass of water with the cut edge underwater. Keep it in a warm, sunny location in about 6 to 8 weeks, or when your shoots are about 6 to 8 inches tall. Gently twist and remove the shoot from the sweet potato and place it in water and watch the roots grow. When the soil temperature reaches about 65 to 70 degrees outside, you can plant these out in the garden.
So that's an example. I don't know how well the sound came through, Shannon, on that.
Videos sound good. There's a little bit of a pause just because I think of the internet, or at least my internet was. But
Okay. Okay.
But
But there's a significant difference in the way they sound, and that the lavalier microphone is the best. So this is definitely something I would recommend, and it works on both types of phones. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And for $70, you're really getting. But of course, if you're filming somebody really far away, then you've got to use the condenser microphone, which is like $150. It's not what everybody wants to do. So, but when you're outside, the lavaliers really is the way to go. Are there any other questions? We've gone way over. We've gone.
Let's see. I don't think so. There is a lot of interest in sort of a part 2, Michelle, in looking at a great webinar on editing and software tools would be great. University of Minnesota uses WeVideo. So that I've not used WeVideo before. I've used Microsoft Movie Maker, and that
that was the only game in town. Yeah, and I don't think that's even available anymore. I think they've stopped it. Whatever you start with, you want to try and, because there's a look is created with it. Again, you can research that as far as like using lower thirds and that type of thing. But really, I think for cost-wise, you could also look into Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a complicated program.
I have found the Adobe ones to be very complicated to, like I've opened Photoshop, we have the Adobe suite with the university, and I've opened it a couple times and I'm like, what, this is just.
Yeah, it is too, it's very overwhelming.
Yes.
Here's the thing, you find a teenager that's gonna, and you hire them to do your editing because they're gonna know how to do it. They are wired into like what's hot. The main thing is there's a lot of on-app video editors. It's just not going to be, they're not going to be terribly nuanced. You're going to be able to edit out when somebody makes a mistake and rolls their eyes. You're able to do that. But if you're going to be going into like serious branding, if you don't worry about a bug or at this point, I would suggest just creating an opening slide, or in PowerPoint even, because you can do a widescreen PowerPoint. It's the exact resolution you need, and you can call, whatever it is you want to call yourself. You can call your video, put your colors on there, put your logo on there, and then for the first 4 seconds of every video you do, that's going to show up, and then it goes away, and your video starts. And at the end, you can have a closing slide that might say, for more information, visit our website. For more information, please subscribe to our channel. Something like that at the very end. That's also where you could say music by MWA for that / Creative Commons license or something like that. So you've done your credit and all of that, and not worry so much about a lower third. If the person is introducing themselves, and if I say, hi, I'm Michelle Walford, welcome to my farm, and today we're going to walk through the orchard. Then maybe you don't need the lower third. It's nice for a finished look, but they're easy to create. You just have to have somebody that you know that has Photoshop that could put one together for you. It's just drawing a horizontal bar across the bottom, put the colors in you want, the signature look you want. You can buy them pre-made that you can change the colors on, but not for iMovie. You have to use that for Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro. You're jumping from free to like a $300 program. So you have to be serious about it if that's what you want to do. I would say to get started, it might be just cheaper just to brand it in the beginning with a slide. Let it run for 4 seconds, and then close with a slide. The slide that you would turn into a photo. But I'll definitely try and put something